kind of a symbol, although you can begin again at any moment in your conscious life. I guess you can begin again in your sleep, but any moment, but especially on a Monday, it's let's remind ourselves that any moment, any day, anywhere, anytime, anybody can start anew by just saying, you know what, whatever's happened and whatever I've been doing that's not working, or whatever I've been stuck or whatever, I'm going to start anew. And usually we start anew by reach out to God, and reach out to somebody that can help and say, enough of this. Let's get a new path going. So this is a Monday, and I want to inspire us all to do that. I'm going to be saying a few thoughts about that in a moment after a few announcements. If you're new to the program, this is a call-in show, which means if you dial this number, you can get on the air and help me with my life. The number is 844-940-2774. 844-940-2774. I'm always open to your help. And maybe if you want some help, maybe I can give you some. So we like to talk about our stories here. This is kind of the culture of this program and this audience. It is not one of having it all together or being perfect. It is one of getting it all together and getting more perfect than we were before that. It's a show about healing and a show about growth and a show about changing patterns. And to do that, we listen to your story. So we love you, callers. We love you. You give us everything that provides a platform for us to talk about life. And our hearts go out to you and our hats go off to you. And so we invite you. 844-940-2774 is the number to call. All righty. Oh, by the way, the rest of you who are on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, and you feed comments to each other and you support each other and you help each other and you have dialogues. I spent some time on there talking about a post that you responded to last night. And I love your encouraging words. I love your corrections. Some of you have Thank you for that. When we screw up and have a typo or something on a posting and it makes no sense, what kind of advice is this? I can't make sense of this. Well, that's our fault. So we apologize for that typo on the last one. And I'm hoping there won't be more, but who knows? We could. But thanks for forgiving us, and we'll correct it when you tell us. As other things, if I say something stupid, which can happen in any given moment, tell me. Appreciate it. All righty. So one more announcement. We have a big dating webinar coming. A dating webinar. Woo! March 24th for all of you daters out there, or wannabe daters, or tired of daters and tired of dating. It's all for you. We're going to spend 2 hours live right here on a live webinar March 24th, and you register for that by going to boundaries.me/dating. That's a website. Boundaries.me, not .com, but .me, because it's really about you. Boundaries.me/dating. 2 hours all about how to get a date worth keeping. You notice there's two parts of that title, how to get a date. Some of you aren't getting to the dates you want to get. We're going to talk about why that happens and how to resolve it, and worth keeping. Some of you don't like the dates you're getting. So we're going to look at that issue and how does that happen? How do we resolve it? All righty. Let's hop into the thought for today while the calls are coming in. There's a couple lines open. 844-940-2774 is the number to call. I just looked on the screen. Maybe I should shave. I bet it's almost like I've got a look like I don't know what I look like. Anyway, sorry. Usually I don't look at that part of the camera where it shows how do you stand it? Okay, 844-940-2774 and call in. And remember to share the program with your friends. And also you can listen to it on a podcast as you're working out, walking, training your dog, or just sitting in your backyard. You go to wherever podcasts are gotten and look it up under boundaries.me. Okay, so a thought for today. I was thinking about, this Monday thing as we start over. At any moment, it's time to start over. Well, one of the best ways to begin to make a path of starting over, and I've recently talked about this in a couple of our other workshops, online workshops, which are available on boundaries.me. I did one on anxiety, overcoming anxiety. I did one on overcoming depression. You can find both of those on boundaries.me. And in those, what I did was I did just a real overview of all the old, current, proven, disproven research in the world. Well, as much as I could find. Because I do ongoing continuing ed and study all of that. And there's a lot of research out there about overcoming all this stuff. And part of that that's been proven over the years, and part of that that people really do really well to embrace, is a concept called, you ready for this? Automatic thoughts. Automatic thoughts. Now, what's an automatic thought? It's a thought that comes that you did not initiate consciously or volitionally. You didn't say, you know what, I'm going to decide this about that. You think about doing something, you think about going somewhere, you think about, if you're a dater asking somebody out, you think about if you're wanting to enhance your career, I'm going to go take a course. I might get another degree. I might make a sales call. I might go visit this church, or I might go visit this group or whatever. And instantly the first thought that comes, and you kind of like have gotten so used to it, guys, that it's automatic. But what you don't realize is that it is automatic. You didn't choose it. You don't control it. It comes from a network of memories and experiences, and maybe things that you've been taught, or maybe things you were taught under duress by trauma, by harsh treatment in a previous relationship, even families of origin. It may be an automatic thought that you have gotten from experience. In other words, something has happened to you that showed you this is the way things work. This is the way things are. Things like, well, nobody's going to listen to me, or nobody's going to hear what I have to say, or nobody's going to really help. They're only going to judge me, or I have nothing to offer, or the future is hopeless, or I won't be allowed to do that, or, there are no good ones out there, meaning whatever good ones, maybe dates, maybe churches, maybe people, maybe jobs, maybe whatever it is. And these thoughts come. So what happens? You started with a desire, you started with a dream, you started with a pain that you want to do something about. And your heart and your soul is saying, you know what, I want to, and then bam, automatic thought, well, that won't work. That'll probably fail. People try that, it doesn't really work. You gotta, and it's automatic. And then what it does is it keeps you imprisoned. Okay? Keeps you in prison. Now, here's a great analogy from long ago. Probably most of you guys are not young enough to have ever gone to the old traveling. You're not young enough. How the heck can you be? You're not old enough. That's what I meant to say. You didn't go to the old traveling circus like I used to go to. It would come to town. My mom and daddy would take me to the circus. We're going to the circus, and you go in and you see these elephants, and they're kind of standing there. They're not going anywhere. And around their ankle, there's this little rope or this little chain and a stake in the ground. The elephant could pull the whole tent down if he wanted to. So how did that work? Well, what I've always been told, I guess you can go Google this, even if it's not true, it's a great analogy, is when there was a little bitty elephant and he did not have the strength to oppose the forces that chained him up with that little bitty rope, they would put that rope around his ankle and he'd start to move, and he couldn't move it, and he couldn't move it, and he couldn't move it. And then he learned, I can't do anything. I can't move it. He stopped trying. Well, that little elephant got bigger, kept eating all those peanuts. Those kids would feed him as they went by. Sounds like a bedtime story, doesn't it? And he kept eating the peanuts. And he got bigger, and his trunk got longer, and his legs got stronger. But he never noticed that he could if he tried, and if he didn't listen to that voice inside that says it'll never work. Well, that's us. We have experiences, we have trauma, we have oppression, we have criticism, just stuff that at one point overpowered you. It was too big. There was too much rejection. There was too much lack of opportunity. There was too much, whatever it was. And just like the elephant, we learned can't do it. Now, what happens when that big elephant says, "Hey, I want to go"? No, you can't. You're tied to the stake. See, a lot of these automatic thoughts are telling you things that probably were true at one point when your circle was that big. You know, to a child, you ever heard people say, well, everybody is critical, everybody's rejecting everybody. Well, what are you talking about? There's how many billions of people in the world? That's just not true. But when the sentence was formed in your head, if it happened when you were a little kid, or it happened in some sort of oppressive little cult, like even a family or even a relationship where you got gaslighted, it was true. Everybody's rejecting, everybody's unavailable, everybody, because everybody was the little world that you were too little to get out of, or later maybe too oppressed to get out of, like the elephant. And when that sentence comes, everybody's like this. Well, yeah, that was true, but it is no longer true. But the automatic thought will tell you it is. The automatic thought will tell you you're not good enough. And these things can be implanted by people in power. I've shared this story with you, I think, maybe I have before. One of my favorite things I have in my study, right over there, I could go get it to you and show you, is I have it framed. I framed it for my daughters when they were growing up, because I wanted them to learn something, that when you try something and it doesn't work, that doesn't mean it's not going to work. That doesn't mean you're not good enough. That doesn't mean you won't ever be successful in that. It's just one event. So I framed this letter. You know what the letter is? When I wrote my first book, Changes That Heal, and I sent it out to publishers. First one back, it was the biggest publisher there was, the one that I'd hoped for, the one that I'd wanted to get to publish the book. I got a letter back. Dear Dr. Cloud, I'm going to summarize the letter for you. This sucks. That's basically what they said. This is too professorial. It's too academic. Nobody will ever read this. Nobody really cares about this. Besides, blah, 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 blah. And we suggest maybe you turn it into an academic article somewhere and submit it, but it'll never be a book. And we have no interest in publishing. And I think you ought to give up on this. That's basically what it said. Well, that was however many decades ago. And, Changes That Heal found its audience, and, millions of copies later, that little rope around that book's ankle, it said this is not readable, or nobody will want to read it. That just wasn't true. But could have listened to that and said, well, wanted to write books. I guess it's just not me. And that's just one example. So many we have in our lives. I've got 1,000. You have thousands in your life. But you know what? I'm a person of faith, and my Bible tells me that God made each person and designed them to be one of my favorite verses, his workmanship. Like an artist creates something, you're his unique workmanship that he created. And then it says this, to go do good things with who you are and your talents and your abilities. And then it says those good things have been laid out ahead of you so that you might walk in them. But that elephant can't walk if it listens to the automatic thought that says this will never work. I'm not good enough. They'll just reject me. So I want you to do something today. I want you to, as you go through the day and you're thinking about, what you might want, what you might desire to do, somebody you might want to invite to lunch, some sales call you want to make, some losing 50 pounds, some getting out of a difficult dynamic or situation. And that thought comes, that'll never work. And generally what research shows is these thoughts are really usually about a few things. They're about yourself. Okay. They'll some way devalue you and make you not good enough. Or there's something about the world, the outside world, either the people or the opportunities or the world at large. And then the third thing is about the future. Negative thoughts about the future. We're in a pretty negative reality right now in a lot of areas that we've never seen before. That's true. Those things are true. There are also bright spots out there, and there are people that are doing amazing things. And there are people that are helping each other that don't have bright spots. And there are really, really good things to be seen and found in the world if we are looking for them, not denying the negatives. And remember, this human race is on a long journey, and there have been dark times before, and that will always be. One of my favorite verses, Jesus said, in this world, you will have tribulation is the word that he used. That means really bad things. He said, but take courage, for I've overcome the world. So that's why I say when we start out reaching out to him and reaching out to those that he has given that are the angels and the help and the hands. But you know what that takes? It takes two things. It takes humility to reach out and ask for help from people. Sometimes easier to reach out to God than it is to people, but he also tells us to reach out to each other. Sometimes it takes, I got to admit that I need help. And that's also courage, humility and courage. It takes courage to go against that fear. And if that person does reject you, it takes courage to go the second mile in that and ask another one and another one. Like the publishers. John Grisham's a good example of this. He's I don't know, what's he up to? 150 million books, 200 million, I don't know. It's a crazy number. I read that his first book, A Time to Kill, was rejected by 35 publishers. He kept sending it. Come on, guys. Let's declare war on the automatic thoughts that are imprisoning you. And that starts today by just listening to them. Then I want you to start writing them down. And when you write them down, I want you to learn how to dispute them with comebacks. Okay? And those can be comebacks of your favorite verses. That's not what God says about me. They can be comeback of realities. That's not what my friend Susie says about me. See, we have comebacks, but we got to use them. And to do that, we got to take stewardship over these thoughts. Like another one of my favorite verses says, taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ, because he's the one that said, you are his workmanship. So if that thought says that you're not, then you take captive that thought and say, shut up, that's not what he said. That's not what God says about me. I'll show you, thought. Okay, so we're going to try to do that, right? Right, guys? Amen? Say yes. Bubbles. Let's do the bubbles thing, the clapping thing. I don't know how you do that. You've hit some button. Okay, let's go on the phones. Heather calling us from Tennessee. Heather, welcome to the program.
Hi, Dr. Cloud. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
Good to speak. Oh, loving your accent. Say more. Say more.
Well, thank you. I'm calling today with a question about a dynamic with my coworker. We are, just to give you a little background, we're both in accounting. I've been in the position about 20 years, and she's been in the position about 3 years.
And is she an
as far as
asset
our
or a
ranking goes,
liability on your balance sheet?
well, I would say she's an asset. She does a good job, but I think
That's
that
good.
she's stuck a little bit. So a lot of our job is routine and it repeats. And so she is good at the things that are set and constant, but anytime she encounters something that is out of balance or that she needs to try to dig into and figure out, she doesn't take time to try to figure it out herself. She's really quick to ask me to help her to do it. And so I've kind of
And
tried
what
to
is
give
her
her full
position in
answers.
relation to you? Are you her peer, colleague, working alongside with the same responsibilities, or are you somehow her authority, her boss, her team leader, or something like that?
I'm not her boss. We're basically peers.
Your peers, okay. So you're both rowing the canoe together, and she's going, how do you get the paddle in the water?
Yeah, that's right. So I just want to get your insight on how I can encourage her to just pause and try to figure it out herself instead of being so quick to ask me to answer it for her.
Well, let me ask you a really quick, obvious question. Have you said exactly what you just said to me to her?
No, I think I need help in what that conversation looks like. I don't want to come across as unwilling to help. I want to come across as encouraging.
Okay. You certainly have come across that way so far in this call. What is your automatic voice telling you in the head? When you fantasize about talking to her about that, what does the voice say in your head?
Well, I've got some frustrations that's built up because it seems that I think she can do it, but I think that it's too quick for her to ask for help. And I want to answer her quickly, but I don't want to come across as frustrated. And I feel like I've probably let it go on a little longer than I should have.
Right. But what I'm asking is everything you just said, you could say to her, you know what I've noticed that, when we're working along, there's a lot, when you run into a problem or something, you come to me. What I've noticed is I got a lot of confidence in you, and I think you can figure this stuff out. But sometimes you don't do that. You come to me, and I don't want to come across as saying being critical or anything like that. But I'd like to talk about that because I believe in you. Now, when you think about having that, then what's the automatic thought that comes to you that says, "But if I do that, this is going to happen"? What is it?
I think she would receive that well. I think that my only fear would be that if she wouldn't ask for help when she really does need it and maybe makes a mistake that would impact customers or financials in a negative way.
Okay, so you share her fear.
I think so, yeah. We want to do a good job and make sure everything, we're a lot alike in personality.
But are you afraid? Are you afraid if you let her punch in these numbers or you let her categorize them on the spreadsheet of where they ought to go, or you let her match those to the code and what it requires? Are you afraid that she really doesn't know enough where it's going to impact customers? Is that a real fear? That's not a bad thing, but is that real?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So then I think you've said some very, very important things, right? But what you can't listen to is, like I started earlier, you can't listen to the future telling prognostications in your head that this is going to go bad. We have to take what we know and deliver it in the best way. So using your formula that you want to do with her, right? You want her to figure this out. I'm going to do that with you. What do you think would be a good way to say what you've said to me to her that would take care of all those fears? What would that look like?
I think if I was to tell her just to kind of take
I'm going to be
minutes,
her. I'm going to be her. I'm going to be her. So let's practice this. Okay. So,
okay.
So Heather, I got this receipt, this expense, and I don't really know what category it goes in. I don't even know if that's allowed as an expense under the code, or can you help me with this?
Well, I'm working on something right now, but what have you looked at so far?
Oh, that's good. Gosh, Heather, I didn't really look at some. Is there something I can look at that could help me figure this out?
Yeah, you might want to look at what we've put it to in the past.
Oh, we've done this before?
Yeah, if an employee gets that kind of material that usually goes, you can check on John Doe that we did maybe last month or so.
Okay, this see see how good you are, Heather. I don't feel offended at all. And I think one of the things, if I would guess, is that you're a nice person, you're a helpful person, and you're probably very sensitive to the feelings of others, right? You don't want to come across, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, this, that, and the other. So let me just give you a couple of formulas here that you can use in this. I think one of the things you say to her is exactly what you said to me. You know what? I think you are a great asset to our team. I love how, you do a lot of great things. Sometimes I feel like that you don't know how good you are or how good that you could be in figuring a lot of things out that would help you get faster because you wouldn't have to come to me. So, are you aware of that, Susie? Are you aware that you do that? What would she say?
I think she would say she's not aware of it.
Okay, I didn't think you were, um, but I notice it that there's a lot of things you come to me, and I think, gosh, she is so smart, and she's done that very thing before. I think she could go. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like for when you have that first thought that you want to bring something to me, I just want you to ask yourself a couple of questions. Say, have do we have a model of how to do this that we've done this kind of before? Number one, and you might find the answer. Number two, if you haven't, and it really is a new thing, then let's name that new thing. This is how you do this kind of this, that, and the other. And if you really don't know, come to me and I'll show you. But after I show you, I would like for you to kind of keep a record of that and know how to do in the future. So what I want to do is I want to be available to you in things that you truly don't know or can't go figure it out. But I want you to come after you've tried to figure it out and you hit a wall. And that way, I think you'd find out how good you really are.
That's wonderful. I think that that's a great formula, and she'll receive that very well.
That's great. Now here's the news, Heather. Those are all things you told me. You got a great heart. You got a great heart with great ideas, a lot of grace, maybe a little courage to think about stepping into that space. And then if she does get offended or come across, say, gosh, I really didn't want to come across that way. I'm sorry it felt that way to you. I just really believe in you. And I think you could go learn this. I'll be happy to help you learn something you don't know. But I want you to try first. Can you try first? And then we'll work on
Okay, wonderful.
it. And one thing you
I can
might
do.
add,
We'll talk about that this week.
that's great. And one of the things you might add is, and here's one other thing to help you learn that you can learn. When you do bring it something to me that is the same thing, I'm gonna point that out to you. Say, no, wait a minute, we talked about this. We've done this before.
Okay.
And then I'll hand it to you to go back and see. And in about 6 months, I'm gonna be coming to you for help because you will have surpassed me because you've gone and learned all this stuff. All right,
Yes. All right, wonderful.
Heather,
Thank you so much for your help.
you're welcome.
Yes,
I want
sir.
you. I was an accounting and finance major, and if I were on an accounting team, I would want you helping me.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
That's true thing. One of the most, and I appreciate your call. Thank you, and thank you for your spirit to help your coworker. One of the things I learned as an accounting major, um, I've got into discussions about this, about how, you know, sometimes we feel like, we're headed down a wrong road. We felt like even God led us down a road that wasn't going to go anywhere. Sometimes, who knows if God did that or I did it, but it was for a purpose. You know what I learned? I learned so much as an accounting major that helps me in life. And I think everybody ought to learn basic accounting. You really, really, really should learn basic accounting. This basic accounting accounts for stuff. What does it do? Well, it keeps track, first of all, of what are assets, what are good things that have value that we can do something with, and what are liabilities. Liabilities are things that are sucking stuff out of us. In the accounting world, it's usually money, or it could be allocation of time and energy, people, general overhead, all that kind of stuff, or it could be goodwill. It's draining something good that we have with other people. And so your life always has a balance sheet. And sometimes we have a negative worth of what's going on in our lives, that there's too many liabilities, things are sucking the life out of us and taking away the good things we actually possess. And so one of the things accounting taught me was I need to always be auditing everything in life. I do this show every day. Our team does this show. This is it's a lot of it. It takes a lot of time and energy, especially from the team. And we have to look at, is that helping anybody? Does anybody care? Is anybody listening? I mean, are we doing a good job? Am I doing a good job? In other words, what's the return that we're getting from the investment of time and energy for this? Is it accomplishing our mission? Is it helping anybody? If it's not, then we either got to fix it or we got to say, you know what, we got to get that off the balance sheet. That expense is too much. A lot of times, a lot of things in life are like that. They're costing us more than they are bringing in a return. And sometimes that's dynamics. You take somebody that's a codependent trying to help somebody in their family by enabling them. They're continuing to put out time and energy and effort and all of that, and the person's not using it. That's a negative balance. And that's where we have to say, you know what, I'm not going to help in that way anymore. I'll help in another way. I'll take you to rehab or AA or something. But I'm not going to continue to have this as an expense. That's a great accounting lesson in life. And I'm sorry to say one of my favorite verses. It's really not one of my favorite verses or emphases in the Bible, but it is there throughout that we will give an account. We'll go before God one day, and we're going to give an accounting of how we did and what we did and how we used our talents and how we used our time and energy and how we treated people. And what did God get for his asset of what he's given us? Y'all want to see something funny? Speaking of bad days, my pooch Finley, say hi to the world here. I don't know if y'all can see this. She got spayed, and she's gnawing on her. She's gnawing on her stitches, and so she's turned into a cone head here, and she does not like it. But I've been teaching Finley. All of us go through trials in life. And Finley, this is a good thing that you got that wound, because that means you're not going to be taking care of 64 little puppies because you're so gregarious that you would find a date worth keeping on multiple breeds, because you go up to every dog and try to love them. And sometimes that ends up in a larger family than we want around here. And so for a little bit here, you got to wear that cone. I know you hate it, but everybody there loves you. So there we go. Sorry, girl. Everybody pray for Finn. She goes through this dark time that this too will end. Oh my gosh. You put that cone on. You know what? She just gets depressed. She goes, oh, the cone? Are you kidding me? She hates it. All right. One more quick accounting lesson. Let me tell you one more, and then we're going to go back to the phones. Here's the big deal, guys. You know what accounting taught me? Everything in life is double entry. Double entry. You get something good, there's an expense to that. There's no such thing as a free lunch, right? At all. Everything good we have costs us. Finley's going to have a freedom to go roam and meet lots of nice dogs out there without having a belly full of puppies that she doesn't want. We don't want, actually. Sorry, Finn. But you know what? That freedom's going to cost her for a little bit, 10 days or so of wearing a cone. There's a cost to that. We want to up our career. There's a cost to that. It has great value, but it's going to cost us. We got to do a little study. Go take a course. Go take some risks. You want to improve a marriage? There's a cost to that. Got to go get some good help. Got to make some painful changes. That's all right, guys. Once we settle into the reality that life is double entry, with every good thing, there is a cost to it. With every bad thing, there is a cost to that as well, because we don't realize some of the reasons that I've got this bad thing is I'm trying to do a good thing. What's the good thing? I'm trying to avoid fear of confronting the problem. So I get to avoid fear. I get a little comfort today that goes on the asset side or on the, the profit side, the good side, but there's a cost to that. I have to stay stuck by not confronting that problem. So don't ever think anything is free, but here's what you can think. It's worth the price if it's something of value and the price isn't too high for us. Remember that. There's a lot of things that have value that I can't afford. You can't afford. But generally, what do? Nobody ever bills their balance sheet in a day. It's little by little. So we take the risks and we pay for the things that we can afford. I might not can afford fixing my whole life in one step. Might not have the ability to do that, but I do have the ability to go to a counselor, go to a friend, go to a pastor, go find some help, go to a recovery group. See, that's a little expense that I can afford. And that bills on the other side. And then we spend a little more and that bills it. And then if you ever played Monopoly, you know what happens? When you invest in your life little by little and you buy that house and you buy that hotel and you buy that little by little, little by little, little by little, little by little, things we can afford to do, expenses, pain that we can handle, risks that we can handle. Finley, you can handle this next however many days you got left in that. Gets better. Life's double entry, and there's a balance sheet. And that gives you control. It gives you control when you realize that, because then you can get in control of the budget of your time and energy and dreams and automatic voices that are on the expense side. All righty, let's go back to the phone. Suzanne calling us from Georgia. Suzanne, welcome to the program.
Hello.
Hey, Suzanne, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. I have a question about my son. He is only 10 years old, but he is very anxious about his schoolwork. The school doesn't give him a lot of work, and he's an A student, but he's always nervous. On the weekend, I can see it on Sunday. It's like, I'm up. He's like, I don't feel good. I'm nervous. I have school tomorrow, and I was just like, why? You are always an A student. You're doing good. He said, I just don't like school. I don't know how I'm gonna do, and I'm worried about my grades. And he is always like this, and I feel bad for him because he is
and
too
he gets
young
good
for
grades, you
this.
said,
And
right?
yeah, he usually gets good grades. Yeah,
Okay. Now,
but
Suzanne, is
I
this
don't
is
know
this
what
the
he's
only
gonna do.
is this the only thing that he has anxiety about? Is he anxiety free everywhere else?
Uh, He is very sensitive. I don't. That's the main thing I see. But he's a very sensitive child, very polite. Um, he doesn't like conflict. He's just his personality is like this. He will
Okay.
always listen to usually,
He will what?
but he will
He
always
usually what?
listen to what we say. Listens
Okay.
to
Wait,
teachers and parents.
yeah. So he's sensitive and he worries kind of like, is he doing okay? But is he anxious? Does he go out and make friends? Does he play on the playground? Does he try to ride a skateboard or a bicycle? Or do his
Yeah.
fears go past just academics?
Yes, no, he likes, he's normal. He likes to go biking,
Okay.
but I noticed
Okay.
he's just like on the lazy side. He likes to watch a lot of TV, and
Oh,
I try to limit it. But he loves it. He loves electronics, playing games,
yeah.
and being
Okay.
on TV and stuff like this. And
All
I
right.
don't know
So
if
a
that's
couple,
normal or not
well,
for his
it's
age.
not, it's, it's too normal. It's too normal, right? And I don't know if I'd
That
call
makes
it,
me feel better.
oh my gosh, well, just, look at the world today. Look at how much time, if you Google, how much time do kids spend in front of mindless, screen time. It's really, really not good. And it
Yeah.
is really good to limit that. Let me ask you one quick question. Is this a
Yes,
new
sir.
thing? Is this a new thing this year? Or has he always had this academic fear?
It's getting worse this year. I know when he was in second grade, he has a teacher. She scared him too much. She was scary
Okay,
to him.
good.
He was just like, he was
I mean, it's
always,
good to
Mom,
know
I'm
that.
scared of her. Yeah, he was always like, she's just scary. She yells. She is just, he was always scared of her. I know she had a
Okay,
bad
so it started in the second
impact
grade with
on
a
him.
scary teacher. So what? He's in the third grade now. Is that where he is?
He's in the fourth
Or fourth?
grade. The third
Fourth
and the
grade.
fourth,
Okay.
he had good teachers, and he still has this problem. It's just, I feel like it's getting worse. Like he
Okay.
is.
All
Yesterday,
right.
I
So
felt like he's just anxious. It's like an
let me.
anxiety.
Okay. Here's what I've heard that you've done. You've come to him and said, don't be afraid. You're going to trying to validate his strengths, right? To help him not feel anxious. That's kind of been the main approach, right?
Yeah, that's
Uh,
that's the
Okay.
only thing I could think about. I told them,
Okay.
you're great. You're a gifted student. Why would you be scared? Why would you be nervous? Why don't you
Okay.
like
But
school? You say, I just don't
but
like it.
and what does he say when you say why are you scared?
He say, I just don't like it, and I'm nervous about it. I want to keep my
Okay, but
grades always
why are you
good.
nervous? Why I want you to be him, I'll be you. So why are you nervous? What's going to happen? What are you afraid of?
I'm afraid I will have a lot of homework. It will be very stressful on me,
Oh, so you're worried about
even
the
though he doesn't.
workload. You're worried about the workload.
Yeah, and I'm also worried about my grades. I want to
Okay,
keep
but
it up.
okay. Now, you haven't made any bad grades, have you?
This year, I've been doing good, but I'm still nervous.
Okay. Well, why do you think you're nervous even if you're making good grades?
Yeah, because I will work hard. I probably will need to work more, which is not true, but that's what he say.
Okay, but why would you need to work more if the amount of work you're doing is getting you good grades? Why are you thinking you need to work more?
um, I just feel like it. I like to not to worry about anything. I just don't like school. That's what he tells me when I tell him this. He just like, I
What
just
it,
don't like school. I would rather stay and
what do
not to
you,
worry about it. It just
well,
stresses me out.
I understand that. I understand that schools work, a lot of times we have to go to work. That's hard. I don't like to go to work sometimes. That's
Yeah,
hard.
that's what I told him.
Yeah, that's really hard. One quick question, and I'm speaking to him here. Um, Other than the teacher that really scared you. Are you, is it mom and dad? Does he live with you and his dad?
Yes, he does.
Okay. Um, do either dad or I scare you about that we would be mad if your grades fell, or do you feel any pressure from us?
Uh, I think he will say yes.
Oh, that's not good. Who? Do I do it? Does dad do it? How do we do this?
Yeah, I admit that I used to be like this. I used to force them, you have to be an A student. I don't
Okay,
accept bad grades. And
stop. Hold on, I'm talking to him. What would he say?
yeah.
What would he say? Are you feeling it
Okay.
from
So
me?
he will probably say, yes, mom, you'll be upset if I get a bad grade.
Oh, you know what?
What
I am
I
so
answer is,
sorry that you feel that way. And you know what? I can look back and I think I did say some things that probably made you feel that way. And I was wrong. Because you're a good student. I think I might have scared you. And I don't want to scare you. I was wrong. I'm not going to do that anymore. Do you feel like I'm doing it now? This year?
uh, I don't know.
Okay.
He
I'd
probably
really
will.
like I'd really like for you to think about that and tell me if I do. Does dad do it too?
Not as much as me.
Okay. Well, I want you to know this. I'm really sorry. Okay. Now here's what I'd like to do. I would like to I would like for you to learn how to organize your work. Okay. Because you're worried about there being too much work and you won't be able to get it all done. So here's what we're going to do. Okay. We're going to get a
Hmm.
plan. Okay. And we're going to let's take a subject. This is like math. Okay. Now, at the beginning of the week, we're going to sit down and I'm going to give you a sheet, all this, and I want you to fill it out. And here's what the assignments are. And we're going to put that down on paper. These are the assignments for this week. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the day and I'm going to ask you, how much time do you think you need to do that assignment? Okay. And if you say, well, that's going to take me
Okay.
about 30 minutes, then we're going to say, okay, from 3:30 to 4, then you're going to do that. And what we're going to start to do is we're going to match the amount of time that you think it's going to take to do that with certain times. Okay. And then at the end of that time, I want you to come back to me and let's see if it's done or not. And if it's done earlier than that, then we've learned you don't need that much time for that. And you save 10 minutes or whatever, and you can spend that somewhere else. Or we need to put a little more. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go on a project for you to figure out how much time this actually takes. And that'll be your school work time. And then whatever's left over, you can do the things that you'd rather be doing after you do that, like watching your video or whatever it is. Okay, so here's what I want you to learn. I'm not going to be worried about your grades, okay? Because grades
Hmm.
come from doing the work. What I'm going to hold you accountable for and responsible for is whether or not you do the assignments each day. So let's try that and then let's see what happens. Okay?
But I noticed that if I don't stress on him, like you have to do great in what you do, he will just not pay attention sometimes and
But
do, silly mistakes.
listen, he would do what?
Yes. silly mistakes, like you didn't breathe well. Like sometimes you will do, like, you know the
But
answer. Why didn't
okay,
you just
okay,
focus?
okay, but Suzanne, that's what I'm saying. If he's going to bring it back to me and I'm going to check his work, that's what I do with my kids. That's what Tori did with our kids. You bring it back to me
Yeah,
and it's not done, then what do we do? Say, oh, better go look at that one again. Go fix it and bring it back. See, what I want to do is I want to build something called agency in him. I want to build control in him where he's in control. And we do that by setting the expectation, then hold him accountable for little bitty chunks. And my hunch is when he learns to organize his work by being responsible and accountable for what? Not the grades only, but the activities. And if he doesn't do the activity up to the expectation, he gets sent back to fix it and bring it back to me. That's going to
yeah,
probably help structure his mind. Okay. Right now, I'm hearing maybe it's so too overwhelming. There's not enough internal structure. We add external structure and we make it in little bitty chunks. And I would start with that. Now, if that doesn't help, then what I would probably do is I'd want to sit down with this teacher and say, we got a little bit of a doesn't know how to organize this work. They generally have help in helping kids. They have planner. You can Google this stuff and find, homework planners but I would want you to add a little structure to this and accountability so he can't go do all that other stuff while he's avoiding this, because he's probably doing all that also to avoid his anxiety about all of this. And when you add the structure and hold into the activities, that a lot of times will really reduce the anxiety, because then it's all done and he learns something. He learns what freedom feels like. Check, I did it. Now I can go play with no worries. But I would add that. I would apologize for the overpressure. And I would say, I'm not going to be on your case. And if you fail, it's okay. As long as you're doing the work, we're going to focus on the work. Okay. I would try that. If that didn't work, I would get I'd get a conference with the teacher. And if it turns out that he does have some sort of an anxiety problem, after all of that, then be good to talk to a good counselor. Okay. Thank you for that call. It is it's a big issue. Kids, a lot of times, and we always have to diagnose, where is this pressure coming from? Sometimes coming from the culture, sometimes coming from the culture of the school. I've worked in situations. I had a hospital one time that was the hospital was in a particular environment in that city where there was a culture of extreme high pressure performance on kids. And you know what we predominantly treated? We predominantly treated eating disorders because of all the anxiety of what they couldn't control and failure and perfectionism and all of that. That's what we would see the most at that time. And you started to look at it, and some of it was coming from the culture of the school and the neighborhood and the parents and all of that and the competitiveness. And you had to really kind of work with that part of it. Sometimes come from the culture at home, sometimes come from the kid and their temperament. But one of the things that happens that you got to do is you got to lower the risk of failing, okay? And you got to up the structure and the feelings of efficacy where I'm in control. And the way I get control is I know what's required and I meet the requirements, and then I'll let the results take care of themselves. And that's what we ought to be doing anyway, whether or not that cures the total anxiety picture. And if it doesn't, then we take the next step. Okay, let's go to Carrie, who's calling us about, this is a great question. Carrie, a laziness question.
Hello.
Have you got a lazy issue?
I do. I don't know.
Carrie, who's lazy? Is it you?
That would be me. I have to raise my hand. Yeah.
Wait a minute, Carrie. Somehow you got your bottom off the couch and over to the phone to dial the phone. So you weren't lazy about that.
Yeah. Well, I came in from one little job and I saw that you were live, so I thought, I'm unmotivated,
Yeah.
but I'll just call and see what happens.
That's so cool.
So,
Now you came in from doing what? What did you come in from doing?
well, I'm making a little extra money on a few mornings a week homeschooling a little boy, so I had been out with him, and I just dropped him off and came home, and
That doesn't sound lazy.
So, well, I do get up and go because I have to pay the bills, so I can.
All right. So where are you lazy? Where's this lazy monster popping up?
The main thing, I mean, like I love what my main job is, and
What's
I've
your main
been
job?
passionate about it for a long. Actually, I work with high-risk kids in a very rural community. So
Good for you.
I love the kids to death, and
So you're not lazy about
once
that?
I'm there. Not once I'm there. Once I get busy teaching and things like that, then the motor starts going. But there's a lot of preparation involved. So things like writing fundraising letters and things like that. I'm always behind on, and
those are the things you don't like.
Yeah, basically, yes. And even just finding even getting ready to go teach someone that, like, sometimes I don't feel like I don't have anything until I'm right there in the moment. So I can feel just wasted. And then.
Is this a new thing? You've been doing this a while.
Well, the last year or two. Yeah, I've been doing it a long time.
So that never happened.
So maybe not to the level that it does now. It used to be people would have, okay.
Not to the level, but you said you had a lot of passion for it and you loved it. So was it that you didn't really have this problem of feeling like, I don't want to go do this? And then it just kind of started about a year ago, or was it always that way? Help me understand.
Well, I think I've always bent on the side of having a harder time doing the things I don't like. But I had more of a drive, to, and maybe I think I actually have more anxiety. So I think anxiety kind of pushed me in certain ways to get things
done. To get it done. I thought you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
it's gone both ways.
Couple of questions. Is it, if you put all the things you have to do, would we put it on a chart? Would we say that, wow, there's some things I like doing. I get up and do them and I go for it. And it's these other things I procrastinate on. Or is it?
Yeah, that would be more it.
Okay. If that's
I guess it's pretty equal, but there's,
But what?
Even the thing, in order to get to do what I like, I have to do these, in order to be prepared for it, I have to do. And so doing the work that I need to ahead of time, so I do fly by the seat of my pants and I get away with it, in a way. So, but I'm always thinking, it would have been better if I would have done this, but, nobody there knows.
There's no consequence.
No.
And is there a real consequence?
Not really.
I mean, is there a real consequence, or is it all in your head? Is it good enough?
As far as my job, only the fundraising thing, like, I don't get the money I need to, to do everything. But, and then there are just things like cleaning my house that I have to have somebody coming over in order to do it. And if it's just kids, I still might not, they might just, and so I have to have the adrenaline that somebody's going to be there in an hour and then run around like, and shove things in closets and things like that. So those kinds of things. But that's I've always been like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find yourself kind of like a little more on the creative side of things?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I've never been organized. Yeah. There's hardly an organized muscle in my body. Yeah.
Okay.
I've always wanted to be,
Then,
but yeah.
then I'm gonna ask you one more question. Has your physical well-being or world changed anyway in the last year or two?
Yeah, I have some sort of undiagnosed autoimmune thing, and I think that, plays, somewhat of a toll. But I
Yeah.
can't always tell, what's the physical, what part is,
Well,
more physical.
sometimes you
part
can't.
is,
Sometimes you can't.
you know.
But I really would want
Yeah.
you to look there first if this is increased. Sometimes there are, depending on, it could be anything from thyroids to depression to hormones to, menopause to, it could be a lot of different things that get at that whole system that hits the I want to, sort of things. And I would get all that checked out. I'd want my doctor to do all the panels, talk to an endocrinologist maybe or others. But let your tell your doctor that I'm not feeling the go-to want to get up and go thing that I used to feel. And just make sure, just kind of rule all that out. Now, the first low-hanging fruit here that I want you to go after, though, is you've told me something very important. That you've told me that you do go do it when there's some sort of an external demand or an external structure.
Yeah.
Somebody's coming over, the job requires it, the lights are going to go out if you don't go raise money. So you're motivated by external structure.
Yes.
Or you're held in check by external.
Yeah.
Well, I would think that's what that'd be the first thing I would do. Is that some people, and I have areas where I'm like that. I'm just not going to do it unless I find some external structure from the outside to do it. Now, there's other things that I really love doing. Like I've written 45 books, and somehow I can make myself go do that, right? But if it comes to doing other things that I don't really care about, but really kind of need to be done, a lot of times, we need accountability and external structure to do that. So I would put I'm going to give you two things to think about. I would put some external accountability around that has consequences to it that matter to you. I've got a friend that just quit smoking. Guess what he did?
What?
And it worked. Pretty much always works, almost, if it's big enough. He made a covenant with a friend of his where if he took one drag off of one cigarette, he's got to give that friend $1,000.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's just an example.
I've heard you say this, of other things too. What if your friends are too nice? Because mine would go, okay, you don't really have to.
Well,
I need to find a mean friend, don't I?
Go find a mean friend. You don't want nice friends holding you accountable. That's like a codependent dog trainer.
I can see that.
I got a Doberman. If I had a codependent dog trainer, Finley would have control and eat the whole house, right? You got to have some limits. So you got to find a mean friend. That's what you got to find. Somebody that can't wait to get that $1,000 and they'll wave it in front of your face and shame you, right? So we need, sometimes you might need, because you've told me if somebody's going to come over, you feel that anxiety and you get to it. So I would say probably if we had the video of your life, there's some ways in which some little structure chips weren't put in there. Okay. And you have to add some external structure to things. That's the first thing. Second thing, as I would look at really, is there a perfectionism, all or nothing thinking underneath that? I talked about earlier in the program, kind of all or nothing thoughts or automatic thoughts. You might have a thought of, oh crap, I got to get this house in order. That's an all or nothing thought. And if you start breaking that down to, okay, well, don't do that.
Yeah.
Stop it. Hear me. Okay? Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go spend 10 minutes on one room.
Yeah.
Go do that. And then tomorrow spend 10 minutes on another room and go do that. Sometimes people without structure in that side of their brain, because that's what the brain does. It organizes us into people that get things done. They don't think about cleaning the house. Okay. Their brain thinks of cleaning the
Okay.
house as a goal, and then it organizes it into little activities, sort of like an ADD kid. You don't tell them to go clean their room. You go tell them to pick up the clothes that are on the floor and put them in the hamper and come back to me. Okay. Because their brain doesn't do that automatically. So I want you to divide it into chunks. On the fundraising, today I'm going to call one donor. I'm going to make one call by noon or whatever, and start to do really little things like that. Now, here's one more thing I want you to try. So we talked about the physical, we talked
Okay.
about the perfectionism, we talked about the all or nothing thinking, we talked about the breaking it up into chunks. Now, let me give you another one. Here's another one. Maybe you hate fundraising, and you can go to your team and say, you know what, I will work my butt off with the kids and helping them. I don't want to raise money. Is there some way that I could delegate that to somebody? And see if that's possible.
That would be so wonderful. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yeah.
Feel the motivation come
Different-
back. What? No more fundraising.
Yeah, I actually do feel it. I feel like, okay, I could, yeah. So,
Yeah, that's why God
yeah,
gives
I could actually,
teams.
just think of, yeah.
Seriously, that's
You
why I
just
gave
have to-
different gifts to different people. You may be operating outside of your strengths.
Oh, I
sometimes we have
definitely
to do
am.
that.
But I was
Well, then
with
find somebody to help you.
an organization that somebody, with the pandemic shut down the team part, and so they've scattered, and so now really it's kind of just me. So I'm
And when was
doing all the
that?
fundraising.
When was that, Miss Lazy? When was that?
Yeah,
When
that was
that?
a year
about
ago.
a year ago. I asked you if anything changed. All right.
Well,
So
that
go
certainly
find a
did.
team.
Yes. Yeah.
Go find a team. See if you can pull that off and see if any of that helps. And you are the caller of the day because you said I have a problem. And that's when we wave the cheers flag whenever anybody says, you know what, I got an issue here and I need to change it. So you win. Caller of the day.
All right. Yay.
And hey, Carrie, can I do one more thing?
Yeah. Certainly.
Stop calling it lazy.
Okay.
Might be a little judgment in there.
Yeah.
Makes you feel bad. Makes you feel a little shame. Makes you feel like, oh, I'm such a loser. I'm not doing this. I ought to be doing that. That's negative stuff, and it depletes your system. So let's call it this. You know what? There's some things I want to do, some things I don't want to do. I got to figure out what am I going to do about the things I don't want to do. Let's make it a problem to be solved instead of a judgment that ends up in condemnation and loss of energy. Okay? Try that.
I like that. Okay.
All right.
Okay. That's very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you for your call. Thank you for your call. Oh gosh. Guys. How many times do we operate in spheres that really are not somewhere we should be operating? Now, obviously, sometimes we have to. I get that. One of the areas that I don't know if this happens that much anymore. I think it does in some relationships. Not as sex role typed nowadays. I think sometimes this pressure, but a lot of times, I've heard couples say, well, they're in these fights because the husband won't take care of the finances and he won't pay the bills and this, that, and the other. And she says, I got to nag him or this, that, and the other. And the guy's like a jazz player and she's a CPA. Go, wait a minute. Well, the husband ought to be doing it. He feels like I ought to be doing it. Or other sex role things in the opposite direction. It doesn't always go one way. But my point is that we get these kind of weird things that say, I'm the one that ought to be doing this for whatever reason. It's why your parents did it, or the church told you this, or your neighbors do it that way, or whatever. Why don't you sit down like a real team? That's what Tori and I do. You put all the things that have to be done and who wants what. Oh my gosh, if it weren't for her in doing the things that she is good at and loves to do that I hate to do and suck at, then I don't know how functional our family would be, but it'd be a lot less functional than whatever level we've managed to get it to. Everybody's got strengths. Everybody's got abilities. God made everybody in different ways. So let's operate in our strengths. But here's the thing. You can't use that as a bailout to not do your job, whatever your job is. And sometimes what's holding people back is they're trying to operate in an area they're not really even gifted or able to do. And we can find somebody in the team who is a stakeholder in this working to begin to do that. All righty. Let's go to, where are we? Left where are we? Okay, I'm looking at the we're out of time here. Let's try to take I'm getting signs since we're overtime. We're gonna go oh, you know what? They're telling me we're overtime. Okay. Guys, I'm sorry. Those of you who are waiting, please call us back. We got Lynn and Yolanda and some others. Please call us back. They're telling me overtime. Sorry about that. You know what? I got to hand it to you guys one more time. Our callers, you are awesome. You give us the stuff to talk about. Look what we have talked about today. We talked about looking at how to make a teamwork where you share responsibilities. Heather called us. She's got a coworker. It doesn't feel like, she's being independent and her coworker's being independent enough, wanted to have the conversation, found out she has all the thoughts in her head that she could have that would work well to go have the conversation. We just have to take the risk of having to do it and then be prepared for, if it goes south, what am I going to say then? That's how confrontation happens in a good way to solve problems. And then Suzanne, talked about her kid and so much we can learn from that. When people have fears and they avoid stuff because of fears, then one of the greatest antidotes to fears is structure. And when we add structure to things, I said, go get the kid and let's talk about what it's going to take. And let's talk about the activities and all of that to structure it. The anxiety goes away. I had this happen on Friday. Every day, my assistant mails me a list of all of the things that need my attention, need me to, respond to. And there were, it's been piling up. I missed that week because of, I got snowed in Texas, and then I missed another week with other stuff, and the list was getting big, and I was, and it looked this big, and I kind of, started taking them one at a time and got through it. But I was just feeling this is hanging over my head. Well, Friday, I had kind of hacked at a bunch of stuff, and finally we got down, and I got through them all. And then we're on the call. This is late Friday afternoon, about 5:30 or 6. And I said, so what else? She goes, that's it. I go, what? She goes, yeah, that's it. You're free. I said, what? She goes, yeah, that's it. And I found out once I put a little structure to it and had enough time to do the little piece. What? It's not as big as I thought. A lot of times that happens. That's what Suzanne taught us today about her kid might be the answer for him. And then, similar thing with Carrie, but then we learned that sometimes we are asking ourselves to do things that may not be good for us to do. And sometimes we need accountability to do the crap we don't want to do. And let me tell you this, I said this earlier, that life is double entry. And for everything that is good, there will be something we've got to do that we don't like to do. That's called maturity. And it starts in the second year of life. If you want to play with the toys, clean up, everybody clean up. That's what we taught our kids when they were little. You're going to play with them. Now we're going to clean up. And if you don't clean up, you don't get to play with them next time. Oh, no, that's the way it works. Okay. And then it becomes structured habit inside. I just read a big piece of research this morning. They wrote a book on this, that America, the kids are not helping They're not helpful. They're making mom or dad do all this stuff, and they don't help out around the house and all this. They do this huge study all over the world. This is literally, I wish I had it in front of me, and they wrote a book on it. And they found out there are cultures where the kids actually help around the house. How did this happen? Maybe there's something in the water that they're drinking. Did they add fluoride? You know what they found? The parents actually were requiring them to do it early on, starting when they're 2 or 3 years old. They'd say, clean up the kitchen. Say, want to help? Here, take this rag and wipe it on there. Want to help? Take that dish and put it. And they actually trained them to do. Oh my gosh, can you imagine this? To do stuff they didn't want to do? Oh my gosh. We have to do stuff we don't want to do. Well, if you want the lollipop, you do. That's all of us, guys. So here's one thing that can really help you. Face that automatic thought. That automatic thought says, oh, I don't want to do that. And replace it with, I know you don't want to do it. Who would want to do that? You have to be weird to want to do that. But we got to do it if you want the lollipop. We start to think that way. Okay, I'll do it. All right, I'll do it. Thank God for parents that teach their kids that sometimes we all do things we don't want to do. And if I let you only do things you want to do, you are going to have a life that you don't want to live in. Because the lives we want to live in always involve a little discipline for the moment, it seems, as one of my favorite verses says in Hebrews 12. All discipline for the moment seems not to be joyful, but sorrowful. It hurts, but in the end, it produces the peaceful fruit of righteousness, doing things right. Helps, doesn't it? Go to doctor, drill my teeth. I think that's what the dentist's name. So I have a dentist phobia from when I was little. I went to a dentist and, oh, that doesn't hurt. You don't need any more Novocaine. I'm like, ah. So I hate to go to the dentist, but I go. But here's the deal. I learned somewhere along the line, gosh, you start doing the little stuff you want to do. I don't want to go in for a cleaning. You go do it. It's a pain in the butt. You lose a couple hours that morning. Everything is disrupted, but you do it. You do it. And then they start saying things, you know what? Teeth look really, don't have any cavities. See, it's just doing this crap we don't want to do. And I'll leave you with this. One of the definitions of successful people is this. You ready? One of the definitions of successful people in any area of life is they're usually not smarter than anybody else that's not in that same arena. You know what they do? They do the things that other people don't want to do a lot of times. Not all the time. I know. There are incapacities and bad things that happen, and I understand all that. But a lot of times people that have the abilities, the same abilities that somebody else is doing something and they're not accomplishing it, it's because they don't want to do the things that the successful people are willing to do, that they don't want to do either. Making the cold calls, going through the rejections, studying the stuff they have to study. We should do a show on that one time. Doing the things I don't want to do, so I get to do the things I want to do. Boy, there's a new thought. Let's do that one. Okay, guys, it's another day. Tomorrow will be a little off schedule. I've got a filming in the morning. We'll try to do a show in the afternoon, so watch for an announcement about that. We got the big dating event coming up. Webinar, 2 hours live webinar on dating, March 24th. Be here. And you can register for that and get an early bird savings still, I think, by going to boundaries.me/dating. And for the rest of you who haven't gone to boundaries.me and checked it out, go there and check it out. You can sign up for free trial. You get a couple of weeks, take a look, see the whole thing and see if you find things there that are of value to you. Okay. You guys are awesome. Thank you for everything you do, the support you give each other on the platforms, and the support you give this program by tuning in and passing it on to your friends and the podcast, all of that stuff. I really appreciate you and thank you for that. I'll see you hopefully tomorrow.